Hey guys, we officially have new content in the form of Zerbus Matrix 1. This is content that you should be trying to do even if it is just the smallest chest, because we are getting these new astral keys and it's just free rewards, even if it is quite difficult, and I've already made a video on my thoughts about it. Either way, you should be trying to do it if you have the means and the time, and I'm going to try to run down everything you need to know about this boss, from the mechanics the team comps to how they're geared, how they're placed, really everything you need to know. I'm not going to be doing stuff like, oh, run this team to get this amount of score. I'm going to just be trying to explain the boss as a whole so that for every single account, you're going to be able to learn something and run it yourself with any team comp out there, similar to what I did with Abyss. Now, this video took so much time to learn and figure out, so if you guys would consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, best way to support me. Let's get into this. So Zerus Matrix 1 is a classic Guild Boss 2 and Abyss fusion. Abyss, if you don't know, basically swaps between taking physical damage, taking magic damage, but it is in one single fight, one single package. Matrix 1 is different. This is going to be split between the physical phase and the magic phase, and you're going to have a team of 10 for each of these. And they're not exactly phases, they're split up into two different battles. So what you gotta do is you gotta make a team of 10 for one, then you make a team of 10 for the other, and you have to gear all 20 units. Takes a ton of gear. You cannot swap the gear between the two, you have to gear them all in individual sets. So what this is gonna end up doing is cause you to potentially need to invest in just one of these damage types, and you might need to just focus on one if you do not have the gear, but that's something I'll go over in a bit. First, I want to talk about the mechanics. So this boss has a lot going on. It's a little hard to understand at first, but I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. So we're going to go ability by ability and go over it. So first of all, we have the immunity barrier. This is the same thing Abyss has. Basically, if you don't do the right type of damage, like if you're trying to do physical damage with something like a Silas, on the magic phase, every single hit by that Silas is going to do 10 damage, and the same is true on the other damage type. If you are not hitting with the proper damage type, it's going to do 10 damage. So you can only use heroes on their respective damage type. Not only that, we have Rift Gate. Now this is going to be the main way you do damage. You don't do damage to the boss directly. You're going to do damage by killing the monsters in the Rift Gate. The Rift Gates are going to open up. They're going to release monsters. Here, let me quickly go show you guys the map. They're going to open on the sides. They're going to release a large concentration of monsters that you're going to have to do mainly AoE damage to. They're going to just trickle out. And that is how you're going to get your damage out. So you're going to have to kill the monsters coming from the Rift Gates. That's how you get your damage done. Next, we get into some of the boss mechanics. So first of all, we have Relentless Evolution. This is the same thing as APOC. Essentially, when the Titan dies, the health bar goes down to 0. It's going to trigger the Unyielding. This is going to enter the Emergency Recharge Protocol, which is the next move, and after it ends, it's going to gain permanent enhancement to all attributes. So essentially, every time you kill the boss once, it's going to go into its next form, and it is also going to increase its damage, increase its defense, and it's just going to make it a lot harder to deal with. So it's going to get harder over time, very similar to APOC 1 and 2. Then we have Emergency Recharge Protocol. Every time the health bar hits 0, it's going to swap to this, the weakened state. And with the weakened state, it's going to do reduced physical damage and magic damage reduction. The Rift Gate is going to ignore wave limit, so it's not going to spawn a certain amount of enemies and then stop. It's going to constantly spawn the minions. They're going to move towards the boss, and once the boss absorbs, basically suckies all of the minions, it's going to lift up, gain its health back, and do more damage, similar to the Relentless Evolution. So basically, what have we learned? We've learned that you can only do a certain amount of damage on the certain damage types, depending on if it's magic or physical, you gotta match the type of damage. Then we got the rift gates that spawn minions. If the boss goes down, you're going to be able to have a kind of boss rush of minions coming towards it. Then it's going to get stronger, and that's the core idea of the boss. But there's of course moves that the boss does. There's only a couple, but you know, they're very important. First, we've got Annihilation Pulse. This is where we're going to need to have dispelling units or cleansing units, something like Eloin, Nisande, Medan, Narissa. These types of units are going to be very valuable because you need to dispel this. It deals AoE damage twice to all enemies on the battlefield. Dealing damage for the second time inflicts the dispellable energy erosion. Energy erosion increases its stacks when the Titan's phase, and can be dispelled. This is where you need the dispels. The further you get in the fight, the more stacks it's going to put on. I'm pretty sure this gets rid of some of your rage. I could be wrong. This is the one ability I don't have a full grasp on. But basically, you want to dispel it if you're going to go far. But if you're only hitting 8k to 40k, you honestly don't even need to focus it because it's not going to stack up enough to where it's going to matter a ton before you die. So just a heads up there. Then we get Focus Strike. Essentially, this means that you need to have a tank, like a real tank. It locks onto the hero with the highest max HP on the battlefield. After charging for a short period, deals one instance of massive, single target damage, and inflicts an undispellable meltdown that deals high damage every 2 seconds. You need to have a certain degree of healing in order to out-heal that debuff. You need to have a tank that is tanky enough to tank the hit. And you have to make sure they don't die, because if the hero dies during the skill, it deals high damage to all heroes one time. Completely wipes them out. You cannot let your tank die at all. So something like a Toreador is going to struggle a little bit because you might bank on its revive being important. You're still going to lose because it's technically died. So just be careful. And the final ability is Chain Fission. This is its big, omega, super strong attack. Zerbus begins channeling energy and summons reinforcements. If all summoned enemies are eliminated during the channeling phase, Zerbus will be interrupted. If summoned enemies are not killed, the remaining enemies, the survivors, the ones you don't end up killing, are going to get absorbed by the boss, and it's going to do damage out immediately, doing a certain amount of damage compared to the quantity absorbed. So, basically, it spawns a big group. If you kill them all, you don't get hit. If you kill most of them, you get hit for a smaller amount of damage. If you don't kill any, you're going to get hit by the full brunt of the attack. You have to kill them fast. So you can see that there's a lot of AoE damage. Very, very, very important. Now, based on the quantity absorbed, deals AoE damage one time and inflicts vulnerability across the entire battlefield. During this skill, Rift Gates will no longer summon monsters. So it's just the main influx of monsters, and there's no extra, okay? That's how the boss works. Basically, you have to do the corresponding amount of damage. Monsters are going to come out. When you do enough damage, the boss is going to go down, get stronger, but after the weakened state, which you're going to have to deal with an endless group of enemies, and then the boss is going to deal AoE damage, putting out something you need to dispel, and then he has a single target attack, so you need to have a tank, and then he's going to have Chain Fission. Now, this doesn't include stuff like constant AoE damages. Basically, that's how it works. All right? Now, going into the team comp, we have two different things to deal with. So what I am going to recommend to most of you guys is to focus on one. All right? Because the way this is going to work, you're going to need a few things. Number one, you're going to need a tank on both sides. Ideally, because you're going to use all 10 units, you want to have a tank that can survive and that can be a lord. So something like a Toreador, a Gon, and a Cyrus are going to be very, 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 very valuable. As you can see, we have Cyrus on the top for Esotericist, which is a very good faction. And we have Gon for Chaotic, which is going to be very good as well. Two of the best tanks in the game for just being raw tanks. And they also give a little bit of an extra bonus. You could obviously use like a Brokir. You could use an Elder. potentially. I don't think Elder's tanky enough, actually. But you could use a couple other things. But really, you just need to have a very, very good tank on each team. Aside from that, you're going to need an AoE damage reduction. So if you have a Pharisee and Narissa, I feel like these two are going to be the best options for you. Basically, you just want a big ranged AoE reduction. These two are going to probably be the best. Obviously, Draylen works as well, but you're going to want one of these on each team. If you only have one, put it on your better team. The one that does more damage, which is most likely going to be the magic one. Alright? Now, the other thing you're going to need is another healer. So if you're using a Pharisee, for example, you're going to want to use something that has a Dispel. If you're using Narissa, Narissa does Dispel on her ultimate, and you're not going to need another Dispeller, so you could do something like an Airless in order to give Rage, or you could just put Eloin and have 2 cleansers, that's fine. You kind of want that extra Rage. Maybe like a Leia would be good. I don't know, it's kind of up to you. And then the other thing you're going to need, no matter what, is a Inspiration unit. Here we have a Beelzebub on the magic phase, because in my opinion, Diao-Chen is kind of necessary for the help on physical if you're trying to do both. If you're trying to just do one, just put Diao-Chen on your better team. That's the best way to do it. And then beyond that point, you want certain DPS. You're just going to focus DPS. So for the magic phase, the one that's more important, I would recommend a couple different factions. Number one, you're going to want, if you have Valara, either Esotericist or Arbiter. Valara will be your best friend. She cannot solo a side. This content is so hard, you cannot solo a side with an A5 Valara, for context. But you're going to want to try to focus your Valara if you have her. If you do not have Valara, then you're still probably going to want Eso. You're going to want to get a lot of units that do AoE damage. Thalin's a good option. Eris is a great option. Boreas. I know Beatrix is a good option here. Basically anything that does solid AoE damage. Comet might be useful. I mean, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Just make sure they deal magic damage and they're an Esotericist. Otherwise, you could do Cultist. I think Demi is actually going to be very, very valuable. Demi scales really high, and I don't know why. She does a lot of damage. Honora is going to be your friend as well. Magda is going to be great. And then Beelzebub, obviously, for inspiration. You could also use other units, like Vierna would work. Really just any AoE DPS you're able to use. The other faction I would think about is Watcher. Watcher is where you're going to get Ingrid. You could do Ingrid off of a faction. Just, you know, I could take out a Boreas and put in an Ingrid. That would work. Or I could really just, you know, use her as a lord if I have to. You know, Praetus could be an okay lord even though he doesn't do AoE damage. Those are really going to be the only AoE magic factions I would recommend using. Then we get to the physical. The physical is going to be least important, but you're still going to want to focus a couple things. So number one, you're going to want either Chaotic or Northerner. And the reason for this is if you have Lubu or Ardea, these are going to be very, very valuable. Now, they are at risk of dying, but they do so much damage AoE-wise that they're very, very, very important. And they're obviously both Northerner and Chaotic. If you do Chaotic, you'd also do Sithra with them. You could also do Sithra with Piercer. Piercer is also pretty good. Also, Elder, surprisingly, is actually not bad for this at all. So keep that in mind. Basically anything AoE, right? Piercer is also not going to be bad. You have Kai, you have Razak. Mainly, you're going to want Nyx and Erlang. Araka does semi-AoE damage and is a lord. She's not a bad option. You could also maybe do a Nightmare if you need Torador as the tank. You could also do like Rygar. Kiguri still does AoE damage, even though he's not really as, you know, OP AF as before. You know, Hatsit does work if you're, you know, struggling a little bit. So does Watcher. You could do like a Leia with a Kiguri and a Neja, maybe even a Talon as the bear form. There's a couple options. I think there's more options for physical. It's just all of the options are kind of worse than the magic. Those are the type of things I would recommend for the team comps. You basically just build up the support, and then you plug in the tanks and the DPS after. It's just the best way to do it. Now keep in mind one other thing is in the middle, there's not a lot of places to put inspiration. Yao Chen can go in this little tile here and accompany, you know, a bunch of fighters and a bunch of platforms, which is good. But if you're going to use something like a Beelzebub, you got to put them down here or up here. And it's going to cause these tiles on the side to be dead. So you're going to have to put a lot of fighters. Just keep in mind that your inspiration unit is incredibly important. These enemies that spawn have so much tankiness. And as you can see, we also have a couple important things here. So not only do they only take a certain type of damage, they also taunt. So the ranged units are going to attack them specifically. These immunity barrier things, you know, living bomb, jellyfish, whatever. And when it dies, it fires an energy bullet at Zerbus, which is how you deal damage to it. The charge shot is in phase 2. After arriving at a designated position, it locks onto the hero with the highest max HP. Then it channels energy and deals 1 instance of massive single target damage and puts undispellable vulnerability for 10 seconds. This is one of the things that's going to spawn, and the other thing is pretty much going to do the same thing as well, just kind of a different color. Anyways, that's what you got to deal with, right? So you just want to build your support first and then focus on your DPS. Also, very, very important. The reason why you don't see me clicking confirm and save yet is because I wanted to be able to show you guys this screen. If you press confirm and save, what it will do is it will save all of your gear and artifacts, all of your heroes, and you can no longer modify your teams. Do not press this button. Also, it does not save gear for future runs. What it will do is save it for what you've put in, and I don't think it saves across weeks. I could be wrong, but just keep in mind, don't press confirm and save until you're absolutely done. So if I want to confirm and save, I'm forfeiting my right to change my team or my gear whatsoever. Keep that in mind. The first phase we are going to be focusing on is the physical, because the physical is going to be faster and it's easier to kind of just show the base mechanics and placements and map, which, by the way, is wrong. The map is wrong. So this is not what the map looks like, and I didn't know that. So whoops. Anyways, essentially what we'll have is this comp. We're going to try to do the placements. Here's the auto fight, by the way. And we're going to see what happens. So wish me luck. Now you can exit out and save your attempt, but you know, we're just going to go in and see what we can do. So starting off, we get this cool animation. I will say the boss looks, you know, kind of cool. And the mechanics are somewhat interesting, but like, it's just such a drag. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on a couple things. Number one is identifying who does the most damage. And surprisingly, it is Nyx. Nyx is going to do the most damage. So we're going to put her here. This is going to give her full range of the right side. Then we're going to put our Wings of Grace buff. We're going to put Diao Chen in the middle to give it to everyone. Then we're either going to do Ardea or Lubu. I think Ardea is going to be a little bit more valuable. It's kind of hard to figure out a place to put Ardea. I could either put her here or here. For now, I'm going to put her here. I don't know if this is the most perfect, but that's okay. Then we're going to do Fiercy to give the buff there as well. Then we could do our Lubu on the left. We could do our Erlang right here. Our Eloin's not really going to cover who I wanted, so maybe you could do slightly better placements, but she's going to cover Sithra, who is pretty strong. And we're going to do Gon right here. Gon is going to die. I'm just going to be so honest right now. Gon is going to die, so keep that in mind. Anyways, we're going to get the enemies to start coming out. And you could see by the amount of damage they're taking, just off the bat, that they are very tanky. So, yeah. Here we got Sithra doing good damage. Erling's going to do some good damage. Hopefully Ardea and Lubu do some solid damage. As you can see, it does tell us what moves come out. So when we get Focus Striked, you're going to want to do your Gon ult in order to soak up the damage better. You could also Eloin every time you need to cleanse this debuff, okay? We don't have to cleanse it off of everyone. That's all right. But we do want to cleanse it off. pretty frequently. If people get low due to AoE damage, you're going to be able to use something like Pharisee ults, element sprites if you're using that. As you can see, we have already knocked the boss down once. Obviously, we have crazy gear. We have like all the heroes. So this is not like a crazy achievement, but the boss has gone down. Basically, we just do the AoE damage, and then the boss goes down, and then we can deal with these guys and do extra damage, and then the boss will come up a little bit in the future. So we're just doing as much damage as we possibly can right now, just trying to kill everything in sight. Now, as you can see, Nyx is the GOAT. We got Lubu, we got Ardea, we got Erlang. Sithra is doing some okay damage, Arok is doing some okay damage. It's pretty damn balanced. Now we're just gonna keep looking at the healer ults. Just keep making sure you're ulting with DPS, and make sure you are healing ulting at a certain point. So here we're just going to we're gonna cleanse this right there with Elowen. Our Araka and our Pharisee are kind of in danger, but once again, we're not going for freaking 80k here, right? Focus Strike's gonna come out, almost kill Gone. I probably should have ulted with him. Holy shit! 100k a hit? That's ridiculous. I'm gonna do it again and try to ult with him during that. That is mind-blowing. We got hit with 150,000 damage, and then 100,000 per tick immediately after. How are you supposed to survive that past a certain point? That's gonna continuously get stronger. Okay. Be careful of that, guys. Alright, I'm back to around where I was before. Annihilation Pulse is about to come out, so we're gonna be able to use our Elowen ult in a second, which is gonna be able to dispel. Then we can go ahead and use Gone ult on the Focus Strike. This is what instantly killed him before. This is one of the best raw tanks in the game. Doesn't need unyielding. Even with his ult, to make him so much more tanky, he's going to get hit for 100k a hit. That is stupid. He's now dead, I think. Yep, he's dead anyways. I can't make him survive. Potentially you can put another healer if you'd like. We're gonna get about 11k physical. I suspect it is possible to get like 20k, maybe a bit more. But damn, that tank just freaking got rolled. Potentially, if you want to use like an Airless instead of an Elowen, I think that might be good as well. But yeah. So your best team, you're gonna want Nerissa and you're gonna want Airless, ideally. Because Airless will keep the tank alive and continuously refresh the saving ability. And then the opposite is the same, where you know, Nerissa can dispel and do the damage reduction. Basically, this is gonna be your weaker team, the one that has these units, because Gone gets rolled. Sorry, I'm just so baffled that that's the way it works. Anyways, 14k on this. I'm gonna save it. 0.7% of boss contribution. God damn it, man. I'm not gonna save it in case I want to run another one, but 14k physical, Nyx, Lubu, and then we have a couple other DPS down there. So these are two of the better ones for you to look out for. Now I'm gonna talk a little bit about the magic. So this is the team. Obviously, I've gone over it before. I got less score than I was hoping for. Basically, everything I've learned is the tank is #1 priority. If your tank dies, you lose off bat. Off rip. So everything else is just kind of secondary to that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do, you know, kind of a weird placement. This probably is not the best way to place these, but it's the way that I will be placing them. Obviously these things will be smoothed out over time. This content has not come out yet, so I'm doing my best here. Sorry if it's not perfect. Right, here we got Beelzebub facing like this. This is kind of just a placement I've figured out for myself right now, because I think it's kind of funny. And something I will say is Nerissa does dispel. You probably won't last enough to where you need to dispel, so don't worry too much about covering everyone. But for this, I will cover everyone. Here, I'm going to be able to do Demi right there. We do Magda. I can go with Narissa facing down like that. Then we can do our Boreas like this, our Airless like this, our Cyrus like this. If you face him up, his skeleton does actually spawn. We could do our Eris facing left, and then we could do our Honora like this. You could also do it on the bottom tile. Yeah, let me do the bottom tile. Why not? Here, this way that everyone except Boreas, who you may need to build with a little bit of HP, is covered by Airless. And then Airless is going to be great for keeping Cyrus alive. Crazy single target healing, which is super important. Narissa does the kind of AoE healing in a way. Also increases Valara damage, and it does stuff. Maybe Valara could be lower. You know, it doesn't need to be in Beelzebub range because of Narissa. There's a lot of moving parts here. Basically, we want a lot of damage over here, and also Valara can't handle the left on her own. So we're just going to do as much help as we can. So here we can also click our Demi. We can click our Beelzebub. We're going to immediately nuke this wave, followed by the next wave, which is also going to get nuked, and then the third wave. As you can see, Cyrus is so much tankier than Gon was. Cyrus is probably going to be the best tank for this piece of content. Here we're going to be able to click a couple ults now that we have already chunked the boss down. You can see the blatant difference between the two types of damage, which ones are just substantially easier and substantially harder. I mean, this is just a cakewalk compared to the physical, right? We're already almost at the highest I could get on physical, which is 14. We're at about 9.6. As you can see, we're getting hit by the AoE. We're going to get our debuffs out. We can dispel them immediately. Put out Cyrus's skeleton for prep when he gets hit by that really strong single target hit, which he's going to get hit by. Luckily, we do actually end up not only surviving it because Airless and Nurse are great healers, we are also able to chunk the boss down to the next phase. So we're going to just kind of bring this forward. It's basically just spam the freaking DPS ults. If you can space them a little bit, that's great. But if you have enough damage, why not just use the ults? And we're just trying to do as much damage as we can. We're trying to kill things as well as we can, and as often as we can. Obviously, I mean, that's how this content works. So here, as you can see, it's kind of just building your team comp and making sure your tank lives. I'm going to be so honest. Here we can use our Cyrus. Hopefully survive. He's going to get healed a ton. The boss is going to go down again. We're at 23,000, which, by the way, is not even a 16th of the way to the max chest. So that's funny. Anyways, we're just going to keep clicking the ultimates. Just make sure that these guys don't get anywhere near the boss if we can. We're going to demi-ult here. Luckily, we are clearing things just fine. Then we can click our Valara, we can click our Magda. I'm going to save Honora a little bit because I will need her. We're going to have to cleanse after this this pulse. Our Honora is getting very, very low, but we're going to be able to Narissa ult there to cleanse. Unfortunately, the healing's not perfect, but her ring does actually end up healing, which is great. Here we click our Honora. We could also click our Cyrus because we need to have him live. 135,000 damage is insane. We are at 30,000. Cyrus is dead. We've lost. 30,000. I assume you can get higher, but the fact that the tank is getting hit for 130,000, what it is the tank with the single highest damage reduction in the game, is crazy. So there you go. Combined, you know, 32,000, 14,000 is about, what, 55,000? Even with, like, as many awakenings as I wanted, and a ton of gear that most people don't have access to, still, really, really hard content. So, debatably, you could swap, like, Boreas out for another healer. That might work. That might actually be better. But that's how the boss works. Basically, you just gotta work on the placements to cover everyone in the inspiration, damage reduction, have another healer, try to have rage regen and cleansing, but you're probably not going to survive long enough for the cleansing. And that's how the boss works. In its current state, it's really hard. Just try to get that 8k, 40k if you're really endgame, and just do your best, alright? It's hard. You might not have too much fun, but I think free stuff is worth it, even if it's a little annoying. I mean, I would recommend trying, but at the end of the day, that's that. So that's how you do the boss. I hope this helped a ton. Let's go over the gear. Your tank really needs to have a proper tank set. Morale is good. Maybe if you can get him to live, you know, morale might be a bit better. But we don't care about that. We're trying to live here. You want to build in some of the main tank sets, Tempered Will, Unshaken Will, or Guardian. Alright, that's very important. For Zerus, attack speed and rage is important, but it's kind of up to you. Any artifact kind of works, to be honest. Then we have the healers. The healers are going to be built in a couple things. First of all, Narissa puts out inspiration and it overrides other inspiration units. So if you're using Narissa, you're going to want to have as much attack as you can. And then healers, you just want attack speed and healing effect. You weirdly don't need a lot of HP. So here we got Euphoric Orb there. And then we have our Beelzebub, which is in full attack, as you can see, with some attack speed as well. And whatever artifact. I didn't really care about the awakenings for this because it is just a display. This is not, you know, a guide on specific team comps. This is just how it works. So keep that in mind. And then for DPS, basically you just put whatever set's good on them and you try to make it work. Keep in mind your gear is going to be very thinly stretched and you're going to have to do your best. So basically Tear of Twilight on mages, Infernal Roar on the heroes that use Infernal Roar. Then you're going to do either Cataclysm or Soulbound on the other ones. As you can see, we have Boreas over here. I put in Kata because even on test server, I was running out of Soulbound and I didn't want to make any more Soulbound sets. You can see we got Cracked Gear and Valara, obviously. I don't have Malrecall runes on many of these, but still. And the same thing works over here. We just have healer gear over here. HP, attack, attack speed, and healing effect. And then Euphoric Orb on the big guy, you know, the big ranged healer. And then on the other ones, you can kind of build whatever artifact with either Invig or Wings of Grace. And then the DPS is going to essentially just be in either Soulbound, Infernal Roar, or Kata. You're going to want mostly attack, if not only attack. And then whatever crit damage, attack speed you can muster. Rage is good, health is not terrible, but you just want crit cap, as much attack as you can, and then as much crit damage and attack speed after. I can't really show every individual build because there's 20 gear sets and they're all just kind of built like this. Now, if they're in a unit where the ultimate comes up very fast, you could also do Hell's Lament, but it really just depends on your individual understanding of certain units, right? It's kind of hard to compartmentalize it all into just, oh, build this unit like this unit like this, you know, because I can't go over 20 units without making it boring. So just, you know, that's how you build them. And that's Zerbus Matrix 1. I hope you guys enjoyed, you know, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I will hopefully have a video out on how to hit 8K and then 40K once we figure out a couple things with, like, meta comps and some easier comps to run, you know, maybe less gear. No Valara, obviously, is going to be pretty big. I'm going to try to get one of those out in the next day or so, so stay tuned for that. If you're watching this past that point, you could go check that video out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Best of luck. Destined signing out.